Hey guys, I'm ready to do a little bit more of a thought spill. Very, very stressed. My heart is pounding. I feel like the crisis in my life is kind of reaching a peak right now. And in my reflection upon all this, I think I'm starting to reframe the model that I've been trying to live out. I've been really focused on myself, and I just want to like thought spill some of the things I've been thinking about. So, there's two models here um, that I was thinking about. And in fact, as I do this again, I'm using these videos as like a visual journal, as a visual like diary almost. And like when I look at this, I notice that in my model, the center of the model is still myself. And I want to write something up here. First of all, I want to make the canvas bigger. And when I start, I'm thinking about when I do these little journals, I want to start using Apple Freeform so that I have like unlimited space to like, write things down. But I'm going to resize this so that it's about double the size of 3840 to 2160. Let's get it big. Um, and let's make myself small. Like these little pieces are the model that I'm using to figure out my life. And I'm just going to move these up here, merge these two layers down. I'm just going to move these here and I'm going to make them really small. If I zoom in all the way, I can still read it. So I know my model, but what I've learned is that the center of my life is not me. I'm going to write something down, which is something my confessor told me. When this crisis first started, I went to confession and he was telling me there this one quote that has been resonating in my mind for the past I guess 4.5 months. There, I'm gonna write it down. There is no limit to humility. Now, I was thinking that humility is just one virtue, and I was rephrasing it in my mind as there is no limit to virtue. But they say that pride is the mother of all sin, and perhaps humility then might be the mother of all virtue. And it is in humility that I can gain a lot of the virtues that I've been praying for. I've been focused on acedia. I've been focused on diligence. I've been focused on changing lust to chastity. And I've been listening to Bishop Barron's podcast, and he talks about evil being a privation of good or a deprivation. Um, and you know, I've been working to eliminate evil in my life. Um, and even after having done that, I'm sober from my addictions for 4.5 months. It's not, you know, eliminating evil means just, it's like just creating a new baseline. It's giving me a new slate in a way. Because evil being a privation of good, it's like evil is just the void. Evil is just the, um, it's like darkness. If the universe is like mostly this black thing, and the stars are really spread out. When God said let there be light, you know uh, it all spreads out into these little pieces, and in like one big explosion becomes entropy, and it all gets spread out, and we're going toward like the heat death of the universe supposedly, right? So all this void in the middle, this darkness, is the privation, and all these light, huge as they are, the universe is expanding, and a lot of darkness is coming in. Um, we have our own little solar system, and the sun's coming at us and always sending us energy, and we use that energy for good. That's like the story of life, and we're all, I am a part of that um, uh, great calculus, the great calculation, as Dr. Strange put it, the great calculus of the universe. Um, and I think what I'm realizing is in my humility, I'm not gonna, I can make this smaller. Like I can make this infinitely small if I wanted to, because I'm just a small piece, you know. But I'm not gonna make it infinitely small because God is great, and God. is present in the smallness. Because I could zoom completely all the way in, which I want to do in Apple Freeform, and look at these pixels. Each one of these pixels is still infinitely complex, and God knows each one of these pixels very, very well. And what I mean is like the cells in our body, the collective intelligence of our muscles and our skin and our brain. God still knows all those little tiny pieces as intimately as he knows the entire universe. So you could zoom all the way out into infinity. You can zoom all the way in into infinitely small. And God, being infinite in his wisdom, is perhaps the word is in control, or the one who set it in motion, or as Bishop Barron always says, ipsum esse, the act of being itself. Ipsum esse subsistens is what I learned. What that means is that God, the fact that God is, and so real creatures, so creatures are the what they are, and the fact that they exist are two different things. But God, what he is, and the fact that he exists are the same thing. That's what Thomas Aquinas calls ipsum esse subsistens. So God is being itself, and what I'm learning is that in this universe, this whole thing just blown up into many smithereens of entropy. God is the substrate, and I like to use yellow as light. I'm going to use yellow right now. Let's use this bright yellow. So I was using yellow as the model. I was using yellow as like the radiating light. And it's all of it. Like I like to think of quantum physics and how the jiggling of quantum photons, and how they kind of just get generated from nothing, and these mathematical models of waves jiggling around in the quantum foam. If that's what we observe the universe is, then that's how God is. And the computation that happens from all these little particles interacting with each other, just the great, unfathomable, infinitely small, infinitely large calculus, the infinite itself, infinite being itself. I'm starting to see it, and that I'm connected to it, and I'm a tiny, tiny speck in it. There's a lot of religions and like spiritual people in history who talk about going with the flow of the universe. There's a I think a Chinese phrase called Wu Wei, where it just means going with the flow. That rather than going against the grain, going against the wind, going against the sun and the moon and the rising of the tides, rather than going against it, you use that energy and you go with it. And that's not to say that we don't have agency in this world, because we do. We're part of it, and we have computational brains, and we have free will, and we have agency. But if you go against it, if you go against, what the goodness that happens in the universe, or even the evil and earthquakes and hurricanes, if you go against it, that's not it. It's not gonna be good. That's death. That leads to death. And so even with the earthquakes and the hurricanes, we build our shelters to shelter ourselves against the earthquakes and hurricanes and solar flares and all these chaotic things in the world. We do it to preserve life, because we believe that life is good. And mosquitoes and flies and viruses, they go about their business thinking that their own lives are good. And the mycelium network and all the trees and all the algae and all the chlorophyll in the universe, they go about their business, trying to preserve their DNA and preserve life. And we're part of that system. So what does that mean for me? I should participate in it. And that means it's okay for me to go after my goals if I think they're good, to use all my resources and do the work to serve my family. That's good. That's me being a participant. But I have to remember that in order for me to be humble, I have to remember that I am a small piece, and I am not the center of the model like I used to think. Not the center. I'm a participant. And the throughput of energy and knowledge, my brain, my body, the throughput of all that goes through me from the beginning of my life, being a baby, begging for milk, up until now, my mid-30s, still young, still somewhat healthy. And then when I degrade and become bones and die, and my energy and matter dissipates back into the great system, back into God. Uh, I want to make my participation in that good and meaningful. And this is where, my religion comes in. I believe that the Catholic faith is very strong in helping me navigate what is good. And I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I rather just want this video to focus on the lesson of humility. Um, and it doesn't mean that I'm meaningless. And that's great, because when you look at quantum physics, when you look at the waves and the electromagnetic spectrum and gravity and all these things affecting each other, I actually wonder. I don't know if any of you know physics, but does the distance matter? If there's an atom here, and there's another atom billions and billions and billions of light years away, and those are the only two atoms in the universe, are they still going to have a gravitational effect on each other? Because I know force of gravity scales with distance, but does the distance matter? If the two exist, will they have gravity? And will they eventually, over time, if those are the only two atoms in the world, meet each other? And I think about that, and I think about the connectedness of the universe and the necessity of me in the universe. The fact that I exist, the fact that I'm part of it, means that I'm necessary to it. And that the humility comes full circle, because it's no longer me proud to be myself, but proud to be a part of the great of the great universe, of the great story of the universe. And story, I love that word, because stories play out through time. My life is playing out through time, and I want to be a participant in this thing that God is doing. And yeah, that's why this model is important to me now. I can make it small. I'll make it small enough so that it's still there and I can still read it. But it's small, It's small. Maybe I can't read those little green ones anymore, so I'll make it a little bigger. And I can remember that I figure all this stuff out, but I have to remember the model is this. I put myself on the side now, and I don't make this like where God is at the center. I could put God at the center of this. Yeah, we can describe him as as a being, but he is not part of this. He is this. He is it. Ipsum esse subsistens. And that's what I'm starting to see. If there's a big yellow letter G infinitely large, then that would be God. And this is a small pixel of God. Or God being infinitely many pixels in this. I don't know. It's all linked. So I don't know where this is going for me, what this is going to mean for me, because here's me realizing that I'm the same thing that many other thinkers, young and old, have realized, that hey, I'm just a part of it, and I want to be a good part of it. So what does that mean for me? It means I can still go back into this thing and figure out life, but knowing that I'm not the center of it. And I think that's where, for me, humility will come from, because humility is still a great weakness for me. It's still causing problems. I mean, pride. And another thing I've learned, and this will be the last thing I talk about. I used to think that, I've learned that evil is a privation of good, right? So I used to think that someone could have a high level of pride. So, pride. But then I'm realizing that pride is kind of the default state. When we're born as babies, let's have a baby crying here. That's my baby crying. When we're born, we I put it on the same layer. Let's put it on a different layer. So what I'm saying is, when we're born, we are selfish by nature, and we want to draw everything toward ourselves, because the only reason human babies survive, is because they're cute, they're adorable, they're lovable, they have our DNA, and they're designed so that they can be taken care of. So everything, a baby's whole existence is saying, "Oh, give me more, give me more food and energy so I can grow. Give me more. Like I need you. I need." So the pride is the pride of being the center of the universe is what babies are by default. But once we grow, um, we still have that childhood in us. We cry and we pine for the things that we need because what we need is to be these full-fledged human beings that can learn and that can participate in the great plan and in the great story of the world. But what I'm realizing is that pride pride is what we have by default as babies, and what rises from this once we grow, we grow in virtue. We grow in virtue. We cannot grow in pride because pride is the privation of the humility. So what I'm learning is that you could have someone that's very, very prideful, but that just means they haven't grown. That's how I feel. That because I know that evil is not the opposing force to good, it's the lack of it. And for me to grow in this life right now, to move forward from where I'm at, I need to increase in humility. And that's it. That's what I'll focus on today because I don't know what it's going to look like still. I don't know what that plan means for me. And I've spent a lot of time figuring out what my plans are in life, but I need to live in humility and love, and that needs to be like the substrate for me. That needs to be the foundation. Um, the acceptance and the loving, joyful participation in God's great story. Um, so that's what I wanted to share. That's a thought spill I had today. For those of you who actually listen to these, thank you so much. I love you all. Peace be with you. Bye bye.